Okay, we got a user here named Lulz, and Lulz says, I have a model, Ogre Magi, and he's trying to use this tutorial so that he can have alternate animations. And from my understanding reading this, he wants the alternate animations to change the texture. I'm guessing probably as though you were changing between a sort of alternate ogre and non-alternate. You know, like let's bring up some ogres here. All right, so there's Ogre Magi. Everybody knows Ogre Magi, and there's Ogre Warrior. So I think what I'm going to do, I don't have whatever he's working with, but let's do a sample where we're going to have one single model file that has alternate animations between these two guys. Right? That makes total sense. We should be able to do that. So let's first go to the Ogre Warrior, and let's try to see this tutorial. Now, I haven't really read this tutorial. I might be changing what they're doing. Well, let's see what this. Okay, let's change the texture in game without using morph. Great. Okay, pros and cons. He's gonna make Jaina. Okay. Okay. Mage texture, and she acquired a certain item. She changes to Forsaken Jaina. Okay, he's saying anybody can do this. Awesome. So I'm Retro. I wrote this thing Matrix Eater. This is newer Matrix Eater. I didn't publish yet, so I have the better one, but it should work the same. And that he has Magos. Okay, I don't really use that anymore because I have the equivalent of that built in. So, all right, we're good here. And MDX Pather, I don't really use that because I also have the equivalent of that built in. You just go in here and type in the path. So, great. So we have all of those. So pros and cons. All right. Yeah, change the texture. Okay, great. Let's actually do it. All right, we're gonna make an MDL file. Oh, that's good. All right. Then they're going to copy the MDL file, and they're going to use the simple import mechanism. Well, I'm not going to do that because that mechanism is a waste of time, and I made it as a joke so that it would look exactly like, okay, not really a joke, but I made it to look exactly like Oinker Winkle for people who didn't like change. Anyone using this in 2019 is a crazy person, although admittedly I'm a little bit crazy myself. All right, I'm going to copy all the animations. And okay, so here's basically what he's saying. You go into edit mode, okay, and you go into animation, and he's just saying, just go to all these animations like stand and put in duplicate like stand alternate, right? So we're just going to duplicate all the animations. This is what we're going to do. Okay, stand alternate 2, great. Then we're going to make stand alternate 3. Now this thing, by default, this thing is inserting second in here, which is actually really stupid. Kind of regret that right now, but that's kind of just how it was made. I think this is supposed to be stand ready alternate. I know sometimes you have like stand ready alternate instead of stand alternate ready. You actually like hit things that stop working. So we'll have to test this in game. But this is basically what he was saying he's doing. He's just copying every one of these animations and making, you know, like tag slam alternate basically on here. All right, tag slam alternate, sleep alternate, death alternate, decay flesh, alternate, alternate. There we go. Decay bone, alternate. Great, and block alternate, and that'll do it. That'll do it for us. So we have 2 copies of all these animations. If I click OK on that, you'll see we have like stand, and then down here we have stand alternate. Looks exactly the same, behaves exactly the same. Should just be good in all regards there. So now let's go back to this tutorial. All right, so duplicate all the animations. Then what do we want to do? Okay, okay, then make them all say alternate. Okay. Now, import the new alternate texture and take note of how many textures there are. Okay. I don't know about that one because this is where mine doesn't have a materials manager yet. It's really sad. I just haven't done it. So, admittedly, what you probably want to do is fix that, right? We would probably want to fix that. So, let's do that. Let's save this. So we do eventually have to do kind of like this tutorial said, where we're going to have to make this. Let's see. This is Ogre alternating. And it's going to be an MDL file. So now I'm going to go get Ogre alternating out of my documents. Warcraft 3 models. Ogre alternating. Oh. All right. I got 2 of these folders. It's in the other folder today, actually. Warcraft models. Oh, Ogre alternating. Okay, great. So here's our Ogre guy. Basically, what you're going to see here is all these animations. And then what he's, I think, saying is where we have Ogre, you want to put on here whatever's the texture of the other Ogre. And that would be the Ogre Magi. So if you get his texture, that would be this right here. This creeps Ogre Magi. So you're just gonna put that as a second one of these entries, like bitmap, curly brace, you know, image, Ogre Magi, whatever, comma. All right, so now we have two of these. Now, actually, what I just did is horrible. Don't put it second, put it last. If you put it second, it'll interrupt the numeric indexing, so actually don't do that. All right, so we put it at the bottom here as number 4. And what that means is that anything that references 0 now, we're going to want to reference 4. So we have 0 used twice, one for the team color and one for the thing that's not team color. So I guess now we get to the meat of his actual tutorial and whether I want to do what he's doing or do something different. So let's see here. He did all that. And then he added this in Magos. I didn't have that open right now. Let's see. This is the 4th texture. So he added this texture. So now we're in the materials, right? And we want to have the materials do that. Check the texture IDs, animated. So really, it would be really nice if I had a better GUI to do this. I really wish I had a better GUI to do this. Because as I recall, if I, for example, let's try something. So knowing that I have both of these, what if I do just multiple layers? On top of them. You can do animated texture ID or you can do animated layers. This is something really interesting. Let's talk about something for a moment here right now, okay? Let's talk about something. If you think about Grom, you know, like Grom from the campaign, there's something really interesting that Grom actually does, which is that in Grom's animation, when he uses stand third, right? No, stand second. He actually dynamically shades from one texture to the other, right? Now, this is something you could do if you wanted to do that. And this is accomplished by having 2 different layers. Let's say this is MDL. I'll talk about it here. Ogre alternating underscore Grom example, right? This is our Grom example. So what Grom is doing is fundamentally different than what this tutorial is doing, right? What Grom actually does is he has, you know, the Grom and then Chaos Grom, 0 and 1, and he actually has alpha visibility on texture 1 that changes from non-visible to visible at particular points in time, right? That's one option. The other option is to say that you're going to have dynamic texture IDs on a single layer, where that layer changes its texture through time. So instead of static texture ID, you just say like texture ID with, you know, 2 entries, open curly, and then you can say, I'm trying to remember the syntax for this. An example of something with dynamic texture ID would be added in the Frozen Throne if you go and pull up a Naga building. Now, a Naga building is going to have this birth model, which actually isn't even shown here. I guess we have to get that separately. So maybe we'll go to shared models, Naga birth. Sure. So this guy right here. Now you can see my program doesn't even draw this correctly, right? I have work to do in my renderer to make it as good as it should be. And that's because if we make this Naga example, you will see that this actually uses dynamic texture ID as opposed to dynamic visibility. So this guy here, he has all these textures, right? It's more bitmap entries. And then he has this texture ID 45, and we have these indices here. Now, if you do it this way, you're probably not going to be able to fade between the textures because half of an ID, right, using texture 0.5 doesn't even make any sense. But it is maybe a bit more concise in terms of what's actually given to the graphics card. Maybe it would be slightly faster, hypothetically. So I guess in our case, that's kind of what we want to do. So we could just copy this block syntactically because that's what we want our guy to do. And that's the same thing they're doing in Magos, is they're trying to have you reinvent this block, basically. That just says we'll have this. Now, if you do copy this block, and I don't know if he does that in this tutorial here, which is for, it's really, really important that you don't set the global sequence ID, which I copied over here, but you're not going to want to. So, okay, what does he do? His texture ID is animated. Keyframe alternate. This is where I feel like it's almost a waste of time to actually be typing again all the animations. I really, really think we could have better software for this, even if I haven't written it yet. Eventually we will, probably. But it looks like at the moment maybe we don't. So it looks like 333. 7. Yeah, I don't think I really want to sit here and type all those. I feel like this should be automated. So I'm interested in how we can automate this. Let's set up stand in each of the 2 animations and see if we can automate, perhaps. Then again, maybe that's a waste of time. All right, so 333 would use texture 0, right? The other one, then stand alternate. Stand alternate is 14, 7, 8, 6, 7. Would then use texture 4, right? And this is because this is like, you can put a comment, right? This is 0, this is 1, right? And that keeps going up to here, and this is 4. So if we do it this way, we have texture ID. I mean, basically, this is going to take a moment, I suppose. Let's see if we can open actually 2 tabs for this. So if I can, let's see if I can open like another notepad here, like additional new window. Can you give me a new window here? Let's see, new. Move to other view. Awesome. All right, here we go. So this one is pretty much what we want. What's the delete line in this? Is there a hotkey for delete line? Okay, I don't know. There's not a hotkey for delete. Okay, so you just do this so you can see all the numbers, right? And you type all the numbers in here. And this is just because, like, my program, Matrix Eater, all these different programs, nobody really thought of this. Nobody really did it right. I didn't really do it right. So you probably already did this, I'm assuming. This is where he was saying it has some bad animations. We're not sure why. But you probably already did this. So as of yet, I'm just doing what you did. And you can sort of take from it what you will of, here's me doing it. Except I'm not willing to do it wrong because I've been doing this for 15 years. So now I'm going to get all of these intervals, and this will be great. This will be exactly the numbers that we need. And we'll just copy them from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. So that'll be great over here. So as you saw, this is not even the right file. Here we go. We go back to this file. Here's our guy with our texture IDs, and it's still, this is 45 entries. We're not actually going to have 45 entries. We're going to have, yeah, however many animations there are here. Presumably that's about like 5, 10, 15, 20, probably 26. Some programs like Magos get really mad if you don't change these numbers. Most programs don't. If you put 999 in here, you open it in my program, I just skip over it. I don't care. I mean, I'm just going to read the data you give me, right? So it's up to you. But yeah, you could do that if you want. We're going to use 26. It's a good number anyway. And basically, you just copy this a whole bunch of times, and you put all your entries in here. And I assume what they're having you do in Magos is probably identical to this. I didn't really learn it in Magos. I just learned changing the text file. For me, it's just honestly feels a little bit easier. I don't have to go find Magos. I don't have to run it. And I can look at the code, upload the model, and I know for sure that it's going to work. So we've got several of these in here. Here's death, decay, decay flesh. There's that, decay bone. There was a big jump in time because decay flesh is 60 seconds long. And there's walk. Now we get to stand alternate. So actually I didn't really need to copy walk again. Now I'll just put in stand alternate for all these. Make sure you get all these right. Now any typo that you make in any of these. Oh, that's interesting. Looks like I got stand alternate 2 before. I thought I got stand alternate. Well, that's fine. We just fixed it. So any typo that I would make here is going to make this guy show the wrong animation at the wrong time, right? So if you have him just switching texture in the middle of some animation and he shouldn't, could be because of a typo in any of these numbers that we're copying right now. Very, very possible. I've done that in the past, and you can fix it. But this would be your starting point here. You just copy these numbers. So now we have this great texture ID that just will dynamically swap. Now, as well as dynamically swapping here, we also have the problem that my program's not going to preview this correctly, like we saw in that Naga guy. So we're gonna bring this in and bring it to a Warpath model, and it's not going to look right in the preview on my application, and I probably won't even look right on Magos. All right, I'll admit, I actually don't know if it looks right on Magos. So let's find that out. I'm kind of curious. If Magos has got me beat on that, then I definitely need to implement what Magos has so that I can replace him entirely. Let's see. All right, here's Magos software. So we'll see if we open up this Ogre alternating guy. What do we get here? And it is in my other folder, so I just got to go over here. Warcraft models, Ogre alternating. Let's check them out. See if it crashes. Doesn't crash. All right, so he's looking pretty good. My guess is that we won't even see the difference in the Ogre in Magos, probably. Oh, we do see the difference. Okay, Magos is ahead of me in that regard. So I have some work to do. But notably, here you see attack, attack 2, alternate. He's switching in the alternate animations, and it looks great, right? He's just switching between, is he alternate or is he not? So yeah, actually, Magos has done this perfectly, and I really need to upgrade my software to catch up with Magos in terms of just rendering and utilizing this information, because I'm 90% sure if we open it over here, it's not gonna look right. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. We got models. Does this work? Yeah, this is the right one. All right, Ogre alternating. Stand and stand alternate. What do you got? Yeah, stand alternate. I just draw the same. So that's really sad, and that makes me sad. And you can fix that, right? I mean, my software is open source, so you can download it. This would just be an animated perspective viewport, right? At some point in here, when we render GeoSet, there's a point at which I just choose the texture correspondent to the GeoSet currently. And at that point, when we get the GeoSet, there's a GeoSet get material, get layer. We're going to get the layer, and then we're going to get layer, bind layer right here with texture, texture being texture map.get, layer, get render texture, which is apparently just broken. Looks like we're trying to get texture ID, which is really interesting, actually, that this guy gets an integer texture ID at time. And you would think that that would get you the texture ID at time. So this is saying if texture is not equal to null. So that's really interesting because this is kind of implying that flag. So we'll just switch this around a little bit, and let's just say that we're going to get this flag out of here. And if texture flag is not equal to null, we'll do all of this, and otherwise we'll do. So this part of the video you wouldn't have to do. There's not much motivation, I guess, for you to have to do that. But what that would mean is that we would fix the software fundamentally so that you could just go in here and you can say, open your alternating Ogre, and then, oh, okay, looks like I put a typo in there. Let's see. So that's mad at me because it apparently can't interpolate texture ID. Who would have thought? Now pointer 2360. Get render texture in the layer. Alright, so like it doesn't work? Really? It doesn't work. Alright. Really? Interpolate at time. Somehow it doesn't work. I'm interested in why that would be. Because to me it seems like that should work, you know? It really seems like that should work. Why does that not work? 2360, is that what it said? 2360? Animation start, animation time. Why would either of those be null? Neither of those should be null. Let's bring up that the console logging down here. Let's see. Because of a null pointer exception, that right here said either the animation or the environment was null. That's really crazy. Why would either of those be null? Neither of those should be null. Okay. Because of get render texture getting called right here, a texture flag named texture ID was not null, which is really interesting. Yeah. Null animation or a null environment. Well, environment shouldn't be null because we're giving them the environment right here, right? Get render texture. Then give them this. What would that be? Animation flag is non-null. We go in here and we call interpolate. I guess we'll just say if it's not null and animated render environment is not null. I don't know who would give me a null render environment. That's just totally ridiculous. But you know what? Stranger things have happened, I guess. So let's try running it, see if it gets fixed. It should just be, I mean, this is just for previewing, right? This is just so we can see our work. But in general, our work should be working, you know? Oh no, it's still mad at me. All right, that's even more strange. Really, it's just null animation. I just can't get. So this perspective viewport render is saying get render texture time environment, which apparently is null sometimes. I guess that's a problem. Or the time environment is giving a null animation. Animation is not null. So animation not null is checked in a whole bunch of places. So it looks like this is a failure to check if animation is not null at the point in time that we do render texture. So I would say here, if animation equals null, then layer.get texture. Otherwise, get render texture at time. Really, get texture bitmap. Okay, that was bad design in my code there that I needed to call get texture bitmap. So we do that, and that'll improve some things and hopefully make it stop complaining. But I'm really curious that it actually doesn't preview correctly in here because it previewed correctly in Magos. So almost assuredly, it should be working, but I haven't seen it work yet. So let's see what we got. When we bind the texture to render the geoset here, we should be just looking this up from interpolate, which should just work. I'm really interested why this doesn't just work. We're getting the render texture, we get the flag, we get the texture at time, and then it fails because it says the texture at time is some crazy thing. It's not what it should be. Okay, texture ID at time. Texture ID at time greater than size, return texture. Is this ever happening? Can I debug this? Let's run it in a debugger. So it's not doing that, then it would mean that the animated render environment is null. That's crazy and impossible. So yeah, it's not doing that. Okay, so we go back to animated perspective viewport and we say if render opaque and opaque layer or not render opaque, not opaque layer, get the texture right here. So maybe I'll get that. All right. Why would this not work? This ought to be working, and it ought to have been working 3 minutes ago. So we're just going to get our Ogre. We're going to try to preview it. Ultimately, we want to put in the game, preview in the game. Let's see what we got here. Is this step over and step into? What's the hotkey on that? I was used to using, like... Okay, F7 is step into. All right, great. Let's step into here. So what is this then? Okay, that is great. Is this F6 then, or is this F8? What is this? Oh, that's F8. Okay. So step over that one. So it should be now that we can see the texture flag is some kind of flag here. And I'm just interested. What is texture ID at time? It actually got 0. So that's kind of correct. So let's step out. We want to continue over here. Continue. All right. Yeah, just continue a whole bunch. Oh, that's right. Okay, so he's going to keep doing that. So we're going to continue it. Now what we want to do is get stand alternate down here. And this is where we want to check that, right? And this is where I'm really interested. Why it would be the case that at this time, the texture time is 4, and so shouldn't it be that then we would get the bitmap, and that bitmap would return texture time, which would then give us a different texture, which would give us text right here, which is a texture whose image path is unit groups Ogre. And I'm really interested how that just happened because it said it was looking up index 4. Is index 4 not what we think it is? Okay, we'll turn this debugger off, we'll run it again, and we'll see what the heck is index 4. I really thought that index 4, yeah, index 4 is just Ogre Magi. So let's do that again. There's something going on there that I didn't see, right? We go in here, we get the integer, texture ID at time, we get the texture at time. What's the texture at time? He's Ogre, which is textures.get texture ID at time, which is 4. So what on earth is the textures set? That's the problem. That's the problem. The textures set is something else. Okay, well, we can fix that. So that's animated render environment. Get render model. I don't have that. Okay, all we have is this set of textures that was populated by craziness, by real craziness. That is not something that I have the ability to look through. This is really wrong. It's really, really wrong because textures is a list of bitmaps. It's provided as a list of bitmaps at times, I think. Why do they not have times? That's really strange. They should have times, or else they're not remotely useful information. Okay. Well, see, the problem is I think this textures list is like the keyframes of textures. It's like really stupid, and so we can't hardly use it. I don't even know who populates it, to be honest. It was years ago that I wrote that. Like when we make a layer, we copy the textures. But fundamentally, when we populate the textures list, what we populate it with is really broken. This is probably in some kind of updating thing. It might even be in another file that handles it. I guess it is. Okay, so get render texture. We're going to have to pass into here an MDL model because in order to look up this ID, right, we cannot use textures. We have to use model.getTextures, right? And this is significant for a number of reasons and also capable of breaking, which is why we're going to check it against model.getTextureSize, which is still maybe at risk of breaking, but it should work for this example. So I'll fix that later. All right, great. So having fixed that, oh, what is this? Oh, this is mad at me because I didn't get it. All right, great. So we do that. We run this application now. Surely this also has model.getModel. Yes, it does. Okay. Now, having fixed that, we could finally be joyous with our life, and we don't have to actually use Magos. We can have one standalone application that will correctly give us the alternate animations showing our information. So again, having gotten to this point that we can see the information, we can see that it works, then what you want to do is you want to just save this as a binary, right? So here we choose this binary MDX. You can put that in the game. Now here I was running the PTR client, but it shouldn't matter. So we're gonna get documents Warcraft 3, or actually I think it's in just Warcraft models, and we're gonna have Ogre alternating, and then let's give him like, I don't know, bear form or something, right? So we'll save this with the Ogre in it, and then let's just go something obvious. Here we go. Yeah. Let's make a Mountain King with that model, because the Mountain King alternates when he uses Avatar, right? So here's gonna be my Mountain King. He's gonna have Avatar, so he's gonna be level 10. And he's going to have the Avatar ability, and that's going to give him the ability to transform his texture to a blue ogre. Right? Should be simple enough. Should just work. So let's check it out. All right, here we are. Let's check it out. All right, here's my Mountain King ogre. Now, if I use Avatar, he becomes a blue ogre.
Brilliant.
Now let's try those animations. We just want to make sure that all of his animations look good and that everything is how it should be, and that if he dies, he doesn't... this guy's really wrecking the Blade Master here. Let's just see if we can get some bonus damage against him. Anyway, I'm just trying to see if he looks good when he dies. He's a hero unit, I guess, so he'll probably look a little odd, but that's because of the game. It's not because of the model file. So it should be good. You can see he's still leaving footprints on the ground, right? Everything's copied how you'd expect it to be. Should be pretty good in that regard. And yeah, there you go. So that's pretty much all you need to do for that. Hopefully it'll look good here in a second. Let's see. You could skip this part of the video. I'm probably just going to be too lazy to video edit it. Oh, we're off. Oh, okay. What is it? The view divides, right? We'll bring it back. There we go. We'll bring it back. Although that just gave him a lot more hit points. Trying to stay out of the AoE of the Demolisher. Oh, that was interesting. He didn't. Did you see that? Did you see that? He was using the wrong texture. He was totally using the wrong texture right there. We know why that was, actually. It's because he didn't have a morph animation, right? Did you see that? Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. Okay? Look at this ogre. Look at this ogre. He's right here, and I'm going to use this ability that turns him into a blue ogre. But he doesn't change, right? He doesn't change at all. He's using the wrong one, and then boom, now he changed. Now, do you know why that was? I know why that was. It's because he doesn't have a morphing animation, right? So if you want to give him a morphing animation, all you need to do is go in here and give him... This is really interesting. He doesn't find anything. He's not animated. Well, that's a bug. All right, that's a bug for me to fix later. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yeah, we'll just call get render texture then. So if this and okay, yeah, so basically if animated render environment get current animation equals null, we need to just return them textures dot get 0. Uh, then it's like really it's like if the textures exist, then we do that. Otherwise, don't. Okay, this all seems like a waste of time here, but yeah, it's like it's just something to hopefully make this work. So that way, we can go back to our guy, and he's not gonna look weird and crazy, just because we like a good preview. Everybody likes a good preview, right? You like things to work. This is gonna mean that the editor preview is gonna look how we expect. So let's go back to that. Here's our guy. Here's our editor preview. So now, because we're in the editor preview, I should be able to do, here's like a stand animation. And if we go to stand alternate, right, we'll editor preview stand alternate correctly. So we have good editor previews now, both in and out of animation editor mode. And the point that I was trying to make is that you want to give him some kind of morph animation, right? So for that, let's just give him something to do that ends. So it's like spell Ogre Magi only, right? Just copy this and call it morph. And this is what I was talking about, where, well, what if you wanted your model to look like Grom? You actually wanted it to fade from one to the other, right? And you can't do that with this tutorial that we were given, because they're using the texture ID animation system rather than layer animation system that was put in place for the Naga water, right? And now that I just fixed my rendering component, I could give you a better example of what I'm actually talking about there. That if we go to shared models, I think, having changed it. Oh, I didn't change it. Okay, that's interesting. This one still doesn't show water. Don't know why. We don't actually particularly care about this model, though, so I'm probably not going to go fix the rendering mechanism right now. But conceptually, right, I mean, this thing, you know how this should look, right? A lot of people know how this should look. But if we look in the world editor, and this is a much better place to check it out, you type in shared models, Naga birth, you can see. Sorry, that was icon. That was why that didn't preview that. Shared models, birth. Bring that guy up over here. Here's what we're talking about, right? I'm talking about this water. I don't know if maybe Magos will preview that correctly, but the water you can see is animating. It's animating because it's a set of textures flipping by. And notably, this mechanism of texture ID changing, which is what this tutorial told you to use, this texture ID changing mechanism doesn't have a way to interpolate between them, I don't think. So let's change our model. Let's do it again, but we'll do it like Grom, so that he has a really good fade, spell animation, like a morph, when he morphs from one form to the other form of the two ogres, right? So let's do that. So in order to make that happen, we probably want to more or less start a lot of it over, although we could start from our same guy, and basically just save as here to ogre alternating underscore morphing, right? So we'll do that, and now we should be able to go to this ogre alternating guy. And again, the software is behind on this one, so I think what I'll do, let's save it as an MDL actually, so we can do some customizing. All right, great. So we save that as an MDL. Now we should be able to edit it, or we can actually see it again. So this doesn't have to change too much, right? But what you can do is you can say, okay, so I have this layer. And remember we were talking about Grom. We can look at Grom as an example. The Grom has two layers. One is a blend layer that is the red version, and one is a none layer that's just standard, it's the green version. So as opposed to having a dynamic texture ID, he has all static texture IDs, but he has changing alpha, which is to say that things just fade in and out. So for that, we can do the exact same thing on our ogre. It just means that we have to put back static texture ID 0 on this guy, right? So for simplicity's sake, what Grom does, he has two layers, but the first layer doesn't even disappear. You just draw over top of it. And really, that's a pretty logical idea. So what we say then is the second layer is texture ID 4. So this is the blue one, right? We get back to the 4 up here. It's the blue one. Notice this comment is still here. It's actually really interesting because it points out that the model hasn't been reloaded. and I didn't load our new one. So we can do that. Oh, let's just keep working in the same file. You know what? That'll be fine. So we'll just save as here. We'll just save as to Ogre alternating underscore morph, or morphs, or whatever I call that. Let's make sure. Morphing. All right, morphing. Yeah, we'll just save that. Okay, files. I already opened a notepad. Oh, okay. Well, that's silly. All right. Ogre alternating morph. All right, great. No, save it. Save the file. All right. So we do that, and we got these two layers now, right? We just put that in. But the second one, we want this to be fading alpha layer, right? So for that, instead of don't interp, this just strictly means no interpolation between the numbers, because interpolation on the ID doesn't make sense. You can set it to linear mode. Now, the only where I got that is I just copied that out of Grom, right? That's where I got it. I just learned this from looking at Grom. So we put a linear mode on here, and this is saying that the layer on top is going to be fading in and out of existence. Then after that, alpha as a visibility value is the same exact technology that's even used right here on this corpse, right? And the corpse that fades away when the ogre dies. This is just a value from 0 to 1, specifying whether it's visible or not. 1 is entirely visible, 0 is entirely invisible. So what we can do is we can say, now that we have these two layers, let's just have, here's the guy. Let's just have it be 1 when it should be visible. And that's fine, but it means that when we create our morph animation, we'll be able to code this to like linearly transition from a 0 to a 1 and actually fade into existence, although we're not there yet. The other thing we got to do on this layer on top is set this to blend mode. So by doing that, that allows this to fade in and out. And then I think what you're going to want to do is copy basically these same two layers that we have here, but put them again on the second chunk, which was our identical one. So to sort of give you the example of what that is, if you have your guy standing still in Mangos, and the Matrix Eater code has nothing like this currently, but if you hold Control and you click on the ogre, you can Control-click to see what the portions of the ogre are, right? So the main body, this portion here, is the first chunk, and this portion here is the second chunk. We know because this is the one that changes color with team color, right? And the reason it does that is that it's a blend layer, so it has, you can sometimes see through portions of it, that has a none layer on top, which is texture ID 1, which is this replaceable player color. So we want to keep that same system, but we're just going to have 2 layers of ogre on top of the player color. So this is going to be a 3-layer part. And I'm just taking that idea from Grom, right? Here's Grom, he's got 3 layers, very same concept, texture ID 2 is player color, and then he's got green orc and he's got red orc. And red orc is fading in and out on top of green orc. So knowing that to be the case, we can copy these 2 layers safely. It's safe to know it's going to work. And we can just paste them right here. And then you got to make sure both of them are blend, because for the same reason that the original ogre was just a blend layer on top of this player color, we need these to both be blendable so that it can blend with the player color. So we do that. Now we have these 2 layers for the ogre, and this is fading in and out of visibility. So this is great. What this should do, I really thought I saved this as ogre morphing. Apparently I didn't. Apparently I saved this file over here as ogre morphing. That's completely ridiculous. So we'll just save this as ogre alternating underscore morphing, just to make sure that we do that. Save. Yes. All right. Great. So we haven't yet fixed it. When we open ogre alternating, okay, that's ogre alternating. Let's open ogre alternating morphing. When we open our morphing guy, who we've done these modifications to, you'll see that now he looks the same. It really visually looks totally the same, just as it did before. So you at first would think, well, what have we accomplished? But here's what we did accomplish, right? If I go into the set of animations, I can now copy spell and name this morph, and we can go in this animation and we can code it to fade from one over to the other, which is cool, and it fixes the visual glitches we saw in the game. So we're going to do that with spell, and then let's go to spell alternate, and we'll copy that one, and we'll call this morph alternate. The idea of morph alternate is that morph alternate is morph alternate is morph back. So if you wanted an example to compare for that, you could just get any like druid from the Night Elves, right? You get a druid like Druid of the Claw. You'll see that this guy uses that same concept where morph is he's fading from one to the other, and morph alternate is him fading back. I also actually wonder, come to think of it, if the Mountain King has a morph animation. I really don't actually know, but I think he would have to in order for everything to work. So I assume the Mountain King. Yeah, okay, here's his morph alternate, which it doesn't really exactly matter what he does in the morph alternate, but it being there makes things work. He also doesn't seem to have a normal morph, so I'm not sure what's up with that. I know it's interesting that when you look in the world editor, all the Mountain King's like alternate animations are not visible because basically just a bug in the world editor. But he does actually have those animations. The Mountain King is not different from Deterred in that sense. Yeah, so there you go. I mean, Demon Hunter's the same way. You've got Morph and Morph Alternate, which, one of them you transition, the other one you transition back. So it's just, we're doing that same thing in our Ogre. Now, there seems to have been a bug that our Ogre closed itself. This is a software glitch. You won't have this glitch in your version of the software. So let's just go back here and duplicate spell and morph because there was a glitch and I lost that. So then we'll do that here also on spell alternate. We'll name that morph 2. Sorry, that was actually supposed to be named morph alternate. Just name that morph alternate and we'll just delete the one I created there. Cool. So I need to rename button. Yeah, so what we've gotten to is we have morph, and then there's a particle emitter that we can't see, and then we have morph alternate. So that's great, but we're not doing a fade transition yet. So let's save it back as morphing MDL. This should reload now in our text editor, and it should give us the ability to then say, okay, here's our two guys. The last two entries, 285 and 288, at the bottom here. So what you'll note is that this 285, what's 287? What's that for? It's very interesting. That's the one that I thought I deleted. I must not have pushed the also delete keyframes button, which is concerning. I thought I did that, but whatever. 285 and 287.002. So basically we have this 285 entry here. And what you're going to do is just go in here and make another entry that's 1. But these are in the same animation sequence, right? So he's going from a 0 to a 1 in his morph animation. It's going to make him fade, just like what you see when you look at Grom, right? And then we get this 2887 here, and we just got to go to 289936, and we'll do the same thing to fade back. So we go to 289936, put a 0, and now he's fading from blue back to 0 to non-blue. So then we're gonna do the same thing down here. We can replace the 285 entries and everything on that. And this is where we get some basically magic that happens, right? We should be able to open this morphing one. You see in the morph animation, he actually does a fade transition from one character to the other character, which actually looks really interesting. So you got that, and then now he has morph alternate where he kind of morphs back. This is going to fix the fact that in game we saw this visual artifact where he didn't correctly transition. So let's just save that, and this file already exists, so we'll overwrite it, and we'll import the Ogre alternating with this morph into the actual game. So we got Ogre alternating morphing. We can save that, and let's test this map here. I should save. We don't have that thing open. Test the map, and it should just work. We should then see that the Ogre will actually sort of do his little hand wave and actually do a fade transition when he uses this ability, right? Interesting. He did not do that at all. I'm not sure why he did not do that at all. So let's investigate what the editor is aware of. Did I correctly change this guy? I did not. I did not change. So that was the old version of the model. Here we go. Let's change the new version of the model, which didn't work. We don't really know why it didn't work. Let's save it again and reload it and see if we can make it work, because it didn't work. We're alternating morphing. Sometimes you get things that go wrong, and you have to fix them. All right. So when we change the file path on this, that'll cause it to do a reload there. Yeah, here we go. So now, as you can see, we have our guy, and he should have in here, if we scroll through far enough, the morph animation. Here you go, where he has sort of a flash, and he changes from standard Ogre to a blue Ogre, and morph alternate, where he changes from the blue Ogre back to the standard Ogre. So we've got that, and we should be able to test this one. It should hopefully look pretty good in game. Let's check it out. All right, great. Yeah, see, so now when he uses this avatar, he actually does a fade transition, just like we would want, where he fade transitions from being standard, your standard tan-colored Ogre to being a blue Ogre. And it should be the case that when this avatar runs out, he'll do that again, and he'll do a fade transition back, and that'll fix the last few visual bugs that we were seeing there, where he was not rendering correctly. There you go. It's definitely gonna have Avatar wear off before those guys can hear it. So if I was really good, I guess I would just go in the editor and reduce the duration of Avatar for this one. I didn't really think of that in advance. But it should hopefully work here. Looks like it's about to wear off. So you'll see if he was in the middle of moving, it would just automatically handle it. But it's for the case that he's standing still. Now he'll do this morph animation where he fades back and he goes back to being a tan color. So there you go. That's pretty much everything you need to know about doing a animated transition between one of these guys that makes them actually switch their texture. So I hope that works for you, and I hope you have a good day.